set up to share my screen here. So, all right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Good afternoon. Good morning if you're joining us from the far Pacific. And I'm really glad you're here. Really glad to be here. What we're going to do today is talk about how to be a better ally at work and what your companies can do as well. And we'll do that by giving a few examples and just talking through some things, and then hopefully opening up for questions at the end. So we'll first introduce the panelists. I'll let them introduce themselves, and then we'll go through their examples of each of us, what we do at our workspace. And as I said, then we'll get into the Q&A. As you already know by now, we're not doing breaks, so if you need to turn off your microphone and camera, go ahead and take a break and come on back. But we'll try to get through this material and give you as much information as possible. And hopefully everybody will get something good out of it. So again, welcome, and let's get on with the show here. So if I could start off and ask Gary, please introduce yourself.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate that. Hello, everybody. My name's Gary Amashuro, and I'm an LGBTQ plus member of the committee and an employee of KPMG LLP. KPMG is a Big Four public accounting firm based in Los Angeles. That's the office that I am located at, and we have many offices across the nation as well as across the world. I've been with the firm for over 20 years and have been an active member with the Pride at KPMG BRG, which is our LGBTQ plus BRG. We used to call them ERGs, which were employee resource groups, but they're now renamed as business resource groups. That's the BRG. We have several BRGs throughout the company, and we're always encouraged to seek out, and sign up for the different BRGs just to learn and to be an ally with the other groups, and to learn and view one's experiences and over the lifetime that we're at the firm. So it's always a wonderful thing that the firm is offering all of its employees for us to seek out. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. So I'll pass that back to Michael.
Thanks, Gary. Jill? Oops, sorry. There we go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jill Shiraki, and I develop community and educational programs for JSA in the East Bay. And I've worked in the nonprofit community for many years. As an ally, I've done work through the church, the Buena Vista United Methodist Church, to discern becoming a reconciling congregation. And then I've been on the planning team for Tadaima, which is kind of a reflection of Okayati. We wanted to do our own forum in the Northern California. So we held that 1 year, and then have been since developing programs at JSA, which I'll be sharing today. Thank you, Michael.
Great, thanks, Jill. I'll apologize to my panelists. I'm already messing up the order of the slides. So you'd think I'd be used to this. I do this all day at work. So in any case, I'm Michael Jones, a member of San Jose Buddhist Church Betsuin and an employee of Salesforce, and I'll be talking about Salesforce. But as I said before, we have a transgender daughter. We've been on this journey for about 5 years. And my ticket into Okayati, which you can't tell from my appearance, is I'm married into the Japanese American community. So I've been participating in the JA community now for well over 40 years. In any case, the journey we've been on, the things that we've been able to do, we really have benefited from folks like Marcia and others. But we started a group at our temple called Minanamura, which is Village for Everyone, just to give some education and background to our temple members and to help members, LGBTQ plus members in our community feel safe to come out to represent themselves as fully as possible. And we're still on that journey. So with the introductions done, I just want to give you an introduction of the word ally. And this comes from a book that was recommended by guess who, Marcia, to me. And it's a wonderful book. It's a great resource. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. But Jeannie Ginsburg defines an ally as a person who is not a particular part of a particular marginalized group, but who stands up for and advocates for the rights of the people of that group. I really like this definition, especially in a work environment. So with that, let's hear from Jill about what JSA is all about.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, JSA is a nonprofit organization in the Bay Area, and our focus is on has been initially focused on elder care, and has since kind of grown and evolved. I joined the organization in 2016 when we moved to a new facility in Emeryville, and it was also an opportunity for all of our services to be under one roof. Our social services and our programming and our nutrition program. And so at that time, I wanted to dedicate an initiative on reaching out to the Nikkei LGBTQ plus community. And so we started with a gathering, an invitation, a gathering of people, and a survey to find out what the interest is. And we called the project Nikkei Intersect, and we wanted to look at the intersection of the LGBTQ and the Nikkei community. And so a lot of our questions were focused on people's experience in the Japanese American community. So it was interesting that we surveyed over 30 people, mostly Sansei and about 45%, and Shin Nisei about 19%, and then other Yonsei and others. And mostly 40 to 50-year-olds, about 40%, and some 60 plus, and then some younger. And we asked if they grew up in the Japanese American community, and it was kind of a mix. Some were involved, some were very involved, and some not at all. So it was really split. We asked a little bit about when they came out, and mostly as an adult or a young adult was what our response. And then we asked a little bit about family acceptance, and that was also mixed. Some found kind of right in between. Some found very accepting families, and some found not accepting. And I don't know if these are, common responses, but this is kind of our constituents that we were engaging with. And then we asked about if they saw or felt that the Japanese or Japanese American community is homophobic, and there was a response that yes, somewhat they've experienced that. And most of our constituents were actively involved as advocates in the LGBTQ plus community, and somewhat there was a range of being involved in the Japanese community, Japanese American community, or not involved at all. So we kind of also looked at how we at JSA could be a more welcoming space, and what is the interest of those who were surveyed, what would they like to see. And so what the largest interest that they found was that they wanted a space that could engage them socially and as part of a community. And then there was interest in support for LGBTQ elders. There's an interest in mentor support, and then support in community education and story sharing, interest in those areas. So that was kind of what we surveyed. And from there, we developed some programs. We had some activities centered around food, making food together, having a meal together. We brought a constituents to join the Okaeri conference and supported individuals to come to that. And we also, had a New Year's party. So it was a lot centered around kind of more social gatherings and getting to know each other. And in addition, there was an opportunity we had an art exhibit and a art program that kind of was hosted at JSA, and the artists, Asian American women artists, facilitate a place of her own, which is individuals interested in using art as a vehicle for healing and to find their voice. And one of the constituents that had been involved with our Nikkei Intersect, Tomo, was able to engage as an artist as part of that. And that was really wonderful that Tomo, as Tomo was coming out as trans individual, was able to explore her new identity through the arts and healing in a very supportive environment, and share her artwork with the community along fellow artists who also were exploring their own kind of place in community and in their own lives. So it was really a wonderful thing that we were also able to host at JSA. And another thing that we've had the opportunity of, I feel like everything evolves and is pretty organic. We're a nonprofit community, so there isn't a roadmap to how we do these things. And we had the opportunity, Stan Yogi was interested in creating an exhibit on the history of the LGBTQ in the Japanese American community. And he had met Amy Sueyoshi, a scholar at San Francisco State University. They met at the Okaeri conference. And so they partnered together to present to put together panels for an exhibit. And we had intended for it to be a in-person hosted exhibit at JSA, but because of the pandemic, we switched gears and created a virtual online exhibit. And through that provided an opportunity for us to reach broader geographically. So there were many benefits for us to gather in this way. And I think we were able then to reach a more diverse audience. We had several programs. As part of that, we had an opening exhibit. And if you look at the slide, the photo on the left, that's Kei Matsuda, who's was on our board, one of our board members, who's gay man, and he was able to engage with us in a lot of our programming and kind of be a welcoming face in terms of our leadership at JSA. So he welcomed Amy and Stan, and we had a wonderful celebration. And there were a number of programs that followed. Amy did a lecture, Andrew Leong did a lecture, and Tina Takemoto on kind of film and the arts. So that was a part of the seen and unseen exhibit. And there were a number of talks and tours that Stan and Amy did with groups as well. And then the following year, we actually collaborated with Okaeri to put on a series of panels, and they were called, or we called that theme, Seeing LGBTQ Nikkei. And there were a number of panels, and the photos on the right side of the slide shows some of those workshops. So we had, let's see, at the top was Lessons from Two Pandemics, and the individuals who work in the healthcare and advocacy and social services were on the panel and looked at both the AIDS pandemic and currently the COVID-19 and what was going on, and kind of looked at how it impacted the LGBT community. And the individuals shared personally as they were kind of on the front lines. And they shared their experiences there. This, in the middle, in the center, that was on the frontiers of gender identity. And those individuals talked about their identity as trans individuals and at different time periods, newly kind of transitioning today and those who transitioned, 20 years ago, and just how things are changing and what their experience is. So that was really a wonderful and very lively sharing. And for those individuals to connect to each other and just to share their lives with us generationally and for the Nikkei community. And then the third panel was perspectives in the arts, and the individuals there shared, there's a musician, a writer, a poet, a dancer, and they shared again across generationally and across discipline and what their experience has been. And what was interesting about creating these panels is when we met with a small committee, the LGBTQ folks were like, well, we don't want to just talk about what it means to be LGBTQ. There are many dimensions to our lives. We'd love to just, think of different topics and share our perspectives based on that. So that's how that those panels evolved. So we continue to have an open space and host programs by queer artists, writers, and just have a space for the LGBT community to engage. And so, I welcome people to check out JSA. You can find Seen and Unseen. It's archived on the web, and also some of our programs are listed on our website. So there's more information, and we have a JSA YouTube channel if you're interested in listening in on any of those discussions. Thank you.
Thanks, Jill. Appreciate it. Lots going on at JSA. Gary, let's hear about KPMG.
All right, thanks, Michael. So I've been with KPMG over 20 years, and I've seen quite an evolution with the firm on advances with a lot of the resource groups, and especially with the Pride at KPMG BRG that we have. I've been a member of that Pride group since 2003, and been co-lead for the last 2 years of the BRG. And we've gone, it's been a couple of years that, everybody's gone through the whole COVID issue and the lockdowns, and the world's changed, and, our firm had to adapt to many things. And a lot of our, the way that we did events throughout the last couple of years has changed. They went from in-person events to being virtual. So it was a little harder to kind of gather everybody together because it's a new format. But we've been pretty good within the last year that we've had a lot of our events online. And then just to mention that we did have an event last May where we did an intersectional event with our Asian Pacific Islanders Network. And we had Marcia, thank you, Marcia, came in with Hayden on a panel. And Marcia has also been with us on a panel a number of years ago, back in our old office, because we're in a different office now. But so our Pride group, we are a national group within the firm. And we've got over 30 chapters with 2,700 plus members. 61% of them kind of identify as allies. And we've been pretty successful in trying to attain the amount of members that we have and to increase our membership. So we've been doing a lot of recruiting within the universities around throughout the nation. So we found out that when we have interns, our summer interns or our winter interns, that they kind of get word that, you know, we have a pride group, an LGBT plus group, you know, within the firm. So it seems that a lot of students are really asking about the different BRGs within, you know, each company or firm. And that seems to be the outlook nowadays with that generation. So when we're like just a couple of weeks ago, I had one of the interns reach out to me. So it's kind of nice to see that we're at that age. That's one of their priorities. So they're looking at all these different, you know, different resource groups within a company that they can identify with. So that's kind of been an interesting fact that we've been coming across within the last year. And then when our firm does onboarding, you know, we have somebody from all of our resource groups there to welcome all of the new hires and then let them know about all the different resource groups, and Pride is one of them. So that's kind of a plus for us to kind of welcome the new hires and to retain them as well. So and then just a quick note, and we've got several external alliances that we are partnering with, and PFLAG is one of them. So every year we usually have a couple of events with PFLAG. Beforehand, they used to come into the offices across the nation and do an event. However, nowadays, I think just recently for the June Pride Month, they did a virtual event. But our Pride group itself, like on the slide, we've got, it mentions like a Pride 15. So those are basically like our Pride Council. It's kind of made up of, it's not really 50 people, but they just call it P15. They should probably kind of change the number on that because it's increased since then. But they're kind of the LGBTQ plus leaders of the Pride at KPMG network. And then you can always apply for that. It's usually like a 2-year term for most employees. And we've recently, for the COVID situation, we've had this global Pride conference. And what that is that we've had, so KPMG is a worldwide firm, and we have member firms across the world. So we have basically member firms in several countries. So what we did was we picked a certain day in June for Pride Month, and we had a virtual event, and it usually started at 6 a.m. on the East Coast. So it was kind of hard for folks on the West Coast because that's like 3 a.m. here. So, but it ran for like 3 to 4 hours, and it was, the first time I watched it, it was basically like a lot of our member firms doing videos and explaining, you know, what Pride means to them and what Pride means to them being with KPMG. So, I mean, overall, it was just inspiring to see all these different countries that had LGBTQ plus and allies within these videos, you know, from Japan and China and Germany and France and the UK, I mean, everywhere. So they did this video with all these different countries and all their employees expressing how they felt, and how they felt inclusive within the firm and within their country. So that was like fascinating to see, that type of expression on a worldwide level, just the global level of self, to see the different LGBT plus members and their allies within their countries. So that, it was just inspiring to see that. And then beforehand, when we were not under COVID restrictions, since I've been with the Pride group for years, we always had a yearly conference. So it was always in a different city, and all of the Pride members flew to a designated city, and then we got to meet all the members and allies across the nation, and they had all kinds of events and all kinds of meet and greet kind of events as well. So it was just like a learning, educational, and inspiring, and kind of just to meet everybody who you only know, whether it's on email and you might have talked to them on the phone, but just to meet them in person, it was just eye-opening. I've been to so many across the nation, and every year you look forward to it. So it's sort of like, we try to get new people, new members in the group to go and go to these conferences, and they always come back. Their answer every time when they come back, if it's a brand new, person to the group, they're always just wide-eyed and just amazed at how much they gain from the conference, and then all the relationships that they forge, because it's just kind of like everybody's in the same state of mind where they want to meet people, they want to understand, how other people are, what they've gone through, and you hear, several stories on members. There might be coming out stories that are just so sentimental and inspiring, and kind of what they go through. Some are positive, some are not so positive, and you kind of discuss that amongst, whoever's at the conference. So you learn a lot on just the different values and how, what people have gone through in order to sort of be where they're at, in that certain time. And a lot of our conferences are high level. So we have high level leadership that is always at our conferences, and it's nice to see their support. So, their support is from an ally standpoint, but just to see their presence is letting, our Pride group know that they're in support, of every member that's at that conference. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of been a whirlwind. I've been for 20 some years, so I've seen quite a lot happening within the firm. And, the firm has always stated, they want everybody to come to work as themselves. So we don't want to hold back. If you don't want to, you don't want to be embarrassed to say anything or, speak up. So it's kind of bring your whole self to work. And, they frown upon any bullying or harassment, and that's taken care of, pretty quickly. So overall, I've been with the firm for so long that I'm just so happy that I'm here with the firm, and I plan to stay there for quite some time. So it's probably been one of the best jobs that I've ever had. So anyways, other than that, I'll pass that back to Michael.
Great, thanks, Gary. A lot of things going on at KPMG. Great. We have sometimes we we talk about pigeonholing people and pigeonholing. A lot of times we think of these large firms as very conservative, and especially if they're in the financial services industry, we think of them as extremely conservative, but it's really heartening to hear how accepting and how open-minded the firm is in all of its offices. And so it's a great story. So, and especially when you get a firm that's not necessarily in the heart of what we consider the more liberal types of areas, even though it's based in Southern California. Our next example is sort of based in ground zero of the liberalism of California. So Salesforce is based in San Francisco. It's been around since 1999. And when I joined the company in 2014, we had 14,000 employees. We now have closer to 90,000 employees around the world. And, Gary talked about the difficulty with the global clock of, meeting times and, getting, things together and involving the whole globe. When we started this conference today, I noticed a couple of people logging on from Tokyo where it was 2 a.m., for them, right? So, and I know my staff meeting, I've got people at 6 a.m. and people at 9 p.m. and on that call, but that's what we've all agreed to. So it's tough. But in any case, Salesforce is a global company. They've always had the idea of come as you are. We want your whole self, your true self here at work. We want you to feel safe. We want you to feel protected, if you will. And so we have these groups, and we still call them ERGs, employee resource groups. And we've got a lot of them. Just about anything you can think of as a group has a representative ERG. So, we've got Outforce, which is most of these groups have both a global and then local representations. So we'll have a global board of directors or a group that sits and has several officers, and then we'll have regional or it's like a San Francisco branch or an American branch or an Australia branch and so on. But so from Outforce to Bold Force for folks of African American descent, to Faith Force. There's the Indigenous people Wind Force, and there's even a Gen Force for the various generations. So they're all types of groups. I belong to Outforce, Asia Pac Force, a subgroup called Transgender and Nonconforming Group, and Faith Force. And these are all groups that do things that I believe are important work and affect me as an individual in terms of my allyship. With the exception of Faith Force, I can't claim to be a member of any of the communities that these groups represent, right? I'm an ally in each of them per the definition I shared earlier. Salesforce offers a number of ways to participate, but they very much encourage membership in these groups. They encourage you to join whichever ones appeal to you, more than one if they do so. We get a generous allowance for volunteer time off. 56 hours is sort of a target number, but you see there are acknowledgments for people who hit 100 hours or even more hours. That you've got competition among groups to see who collectively has the most VTO hours registered, logged in there. So it's really encouraging. And then we have donation matching through for any 501c3, and so that's come in very handy. So for instance, I made a donation for Okaeri, and Salesforce matched that. And depending, by the way, on how many VTO hours you have, they'll double their annual matching for you if you get to a certain level of VTO hours. And that's how I was able to get some pretty nice amounts out there and be able to do some good, I think some good work with that kind of program. But, you know, what we ask our allies to do at Salesforce is really to ask, you know, what can I do? What's going on in this group? And then listen. And, you know, actively listen, really listen. And, you know, it's funny how much we realize we need to learn to listen better, because a lot of people listen, they really are just waiting for you to finish talking. They're really not listening to you, right? They're just waiting, so it's their turn to talk again. They've already got their answer ready to go, and they're just loading up, waiting for you to stop. But it's really understanding, really try to understand where this person's coming from, what's going on in their lives, and so on. They also want people to speak up. If you feel that things are not going the right way, speak up, whether it directly impacts you or impacts somebody around you. Speak up and then show up. You know, be there for people, be there as an ally, be there as a member of the team, be there as a member of the community or as a member of the ally community supporting them. So lots of things happening there. And by the way, all of this information is available on our website. So Gary and I both had to go through a process at work where, you know, we get approval for being able to talk to an outside group because that's just the way large companies are, right? Where they want to make sure you're not out there divulging company secrets or anything. But all of this stuff is on our external website. So you can find this if you go on to Salesforce website. But, you know, we really want to, I really like this quote, how to empower transgender employees to be their authentic selves. We have a lot of members of the transgender community within Salesforce. I've had members of the LGBT community on my team at various stages, and they've all been very active in this community. In fact, one of my Sydney team members was the global president for a year of Outforce. And so these folks are very present and they just, you know, they're just there trying to do their job, but they want to feel safe. They want to make sure they can be who they really are. I had an employee who lost his husband to cancer. And, you know, in some companies that might be a problem, right? That whole conversation, you know, that he lost his husband, you know, might start a whole round of really hard stuff. What it started in our environment was a tremendous outpouring of compassion. People coming in from other teams, other groups. How can we help? We know he's going to be out for a while. What can we do to back him up? What can we do to help him? You know, how can we get him support and so on? It was just a, you know, wonderful outpouring. So this is something that, this isn't just a way for people to get hours on their VTO, you know, checklist. This isn't a way for people to feel included just because they want to be seen as being included. This is a group of very compassionate people who want they want to know how they can help. They want to know how to be better allies. We get tremendous participation in the gay parade, especially the Pride Parade, especially in San Francisco. Salesforce has a lot of people that participate there. It's I don't know how, I think it's just one float that they get out there, but you'd think half the company was out there. There's so many folks out there on the street. So it's really heartening to see. But equality is one of our core values. And it's very important in Salesforce that everyone feel as if they're an equal part and they get an equal chance, and that they have equal standing to everybody. And it's you know, it's not about going back and making up for past mistakes or anything like that. It's really about just making sure that there is nothing about you except your work performance that allows your career to grow, right? So you're not special because you're of one group or another, and you're also not excluded because you're of one group or another. So it's an equal footing to all. So our training is that way. Our hiring practices are that way. Our education practices are that way. We try to, we have courses on microaggression and just everything you can think of to make the company a better place to work. And these ERGs are a tremendous help to that. And I don't have the statistics that Gary brought up of, how many of the ERG members are allies versus members of the target community. But I know that when I go to certain meetings, that the majority of people in the meetings are actually members of the community. Allies like myself are more on the fringe, and there's not as many of us as there are of them, but there's also no issues with them welcoming us. They're happy to have us there. They're happy to have our support. They're happy to help educate us. And believe me, we need a lot of that. We make mistakes all the time, but they know that we're there trying to help. We're there trying to be that active ally, and it's recognized and appreciated. So, really, there's a lot going on at Salesforce. As you can see, there's a lot of, regardless of the type of group that we're talking about, the company very much supports it. You may have seen Mark Benioff, one of our founders, in the various news media, in various programs, and all the things that he gets involved in. This company went so far as to, when Indiana passed some very prohibitive laws back, 2 or 3 years ago, Benioff and the board of directors sent a letter to the governor and said, you need to correct this, or, we've got a fairly large Indianapolis office, and, that could disappear very easily, because we won't participate in, an environment like that. So, and not just from the pressure of Salesforce, but from pressure of multiple other companies and multiple other factions, that was overturned, that was taken away. So, we do get involved. Some employees may think Mark and the board gets involved in too many things that have nothing to do with Salesforce's day-to-day business, but that's just the nature of who Mark is and who the company is, who Salesforce is. So, I've been there for 8.5 years. I think it's a great place to be. And a lot of it is because of this type of thing. So I'm very proud to be part of that ecosystem, and part of an ecosystem that allows everyone to show up as their true selves. And there's just no question about it. There's no discussion about it. It's just, you are who you are, and so show up that way. So that's the Salesforce story. And closing out the presentation side of things, I wanted to say that there are things that you and your company can do, whether your company is big or small, right? You've heard this on other forums too today. Use the names and pronouns requested by the individuals, and make that known. Make that known in staff meetings and team meetings. If you're a leader within your company, you can make this part of your part of the way that you do business, part of your rules of engagement within your team. Encourage the use of pronoun on company personnel identification programs. Most of our internal communication programs, we have the option to include our pronoun usage, and I would say, it'd be a large percentage of people do. Speak up when team members refers to anybody with any derogatory term. I've never had that experience at Salesforce, to be honest. I have had that experience in previous companies. And some pretty dire stories in a couple of other companies. Offer a workplace diversity program as preventative or reactive measure. If you find there was a problem, get it out there. If you haven't had the problem yet, don't wait, get it out there now. Make LGBTQ workshops a mandatory part of your workplace diversity and inclusion efforts. Many large companies now have the whole, diversity, equality and inclusion, right, department. I know we have a chief DEI officer now. We have a whole department dedicated to it. So, Salesforce might be on the extreme, but I know a lot of other companies have that type of role available now, all the way from director level, all the way through senior executive level. Create visible signs of support, posters, postings, and executive messaging. And certainly we've got that across the board at Salesforce. So these are all things your company can do. That's all we had from a presentation standpoint. So I'd like to open it up to questions and see what you think. Let me see. Let me find the chat. There we go. So there's a question, says, yeah, thanks for the comment about companies that do have that inclusive stance and where you could apply, or where your children could apply. What I would say is always look at the website of a company that you're potentially wanting to do business with or to apply to. And these days, there's always that you go to the About Us on just about any company website, and usually there's going to be some statement about their values or their reaction to various social conditions and so on. So you'll see who they are pretty quickly. If they don't have any such statement, that might be a message in and of itself. But what questions, and by the way, let's see how many people we have. We got about 20. So if you want to just take yourself off of mute and ask a question, please feel free.
So Michael, I have a question. If you, like, I'm a little, maybe it doesn't seem like I'm shy with Okaidi, but in other places, I'm a little bit shy and I have that Asian kind of feeling. So like, do you think the best place to start, if there is an ERG, to go to an ERG and kind of talk to people there? And if you have like something that you'd like to see, bring it up to that ERG and they can take it to another level?
Gary, you want to take a pass at that first, and then I'll answer for the Salesforce one. And Jill, if you've anything to say, please do so. But Gary, want to start with you?
So Marsha, on your question, going to an ERG from a standpoint as an ally for that particular ERG?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're an ally and say you want to approach like the KPMG BRG group for the Pride group, you want to know, your question is how to
or is that a good place to start, I guess, is what I'm saying. If I'm an employee, I don't know where to start. There is an issue on something, and I'm not comfortable with my manager, not quite sure where he or she stands or they stand. Is the ERG the best place to start, or the BRG? Is that kind of a good place to bring your concerns?
Yeah, so it would depend on the concern itself. Whether, I don't know, what kind of example we could use. I mean, whether it's going to be more towards like some like negative kind of issue between one person and another person, or several people that was brought up, then does that then kind of go to an HR issue, or then or if it's kind of like somebody that's trying to understand something where they're not sure, and if it's kind of a LGBTQ pride issue, then yes, the like our BRG would definitely be something that our members could be approached and answer the question, or kind of direct that person to where the best resource might be. I recently had an issue where there was an issue in events, and some people had reached out to several members within our group, so they just wanted direction. So that does happen if it's kind of like from a LGBTQ plus standpoint, but I think from just to ask, if it's kind of whether it's like BRG related or if it's HR related, that would depend on where to go.
Yeah, for what I would say for ours is the ERG would be a good place to ask a general question like, has anybody seen any issues with approaching HR on this type of issue, or has anybody seen these kinds of issues between employees and their managers? But if it's a specific, I'm having an issue with my direct manager, I'm having an issue with a direct employee in my group, that's usually something you would go to the HR group for, or to the next level manager for to address, and that can be difficult. So sometimes the ERG is a good place to ask about, has anybody else had these kinds of experiences, and what's been the reaction if you've tried to do something about it, because generally somebody within the group might offer their help. Remembering that these ERGs, we don't have representation from management or HR or these kind of organizations. Nobody watching over the group as per se, nor anybody there to offer services from a corporate standpoint. It's an employee, these are employee-led organizations.
Thank
Jill,
you.
anything to add?
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Jill, who you don't have ERGs, right? In your and so, for smaller companies or place that don't have ERGs, what do you recommend? How people start, or if there's an issue, how they present that?
Yeah, so I guess if there's an issue, definitely talking to one of the staff persons is a place to start. We're such a small staff. So hopefully people feel comfortable with somebody or know somebody, and they can get directed and supported in that way. As well as like if they're a client, that someone we serve. One of the things as a nonprofit, and I think also we found in the churches or in other places, is that just having, I guess, your, like Michael was saying, like on your website, the kinds of programming you're doing in your outreach, that they know that, that you are affirming and you are a place where it's safe to share these issues. So I think that's really important. And I always have to remind myself that if you have that kind of like a banner on your website, then people will know, we'll see that. And we have gotten referrals, parents sending their child, their, adult children because they saw that we're doing this type of programming, or parents seeking support. And it's not all the time, but it's good that they know that there are places that are affirming and supportive.
Great. Thanks, Jill. Thanks, Marcia.
Mhm.
Gary, I'm going to pass this question to you first. Keith asks he says, attention on ERGs diminish after their respective awareness months. How have your groups sustained visibility and impact throughout the year?
Can you repeat that?
So the idea is there's usually an awareness month like Pride Month and so on, right? So that gets a lot of spotlight onto any specific area. But how do you sustain that visibility and impact year round?
Right. Yeah. So June is the designated Pride Month, and a lot of our events and activities happen during June, and most of our Pride chapters across the nation have, are very involved, and then we have all these events. However, the other months throughout the year, we're for Los Angeles, what we've been trying to do is kind of schedule something every quarter. So we've done, we'll take like January to March, and we'll kind of like all of the Pride members will kind of like, we'll have a meeting, and what we'll do is try and figure out, okay, so we're June heavy with events. So if we take the first quarter in any one year, what we'll try to do is see if we can do like a panel event with one of the other BRGs. So it would be like an intersectional event, whether it's with the African American group or the Hispanic network or the Asian American network or the Veterans network or the network of women, or I mean, there's so many. So that's kind of been the goal within the past couple of years, that's because each like BRG has its own month. So what we've been trying to do is kind of do like a shared event with other BRGs within a certain quarter, so that we can kind of keep the calendar going. It's kind of been hard to do, but we last year we were kind of lucky to do it with the Asian Pacific Hunter Network, but I think so that's kind of one answer to that. And then also we've been trying to do sort of an overall like BRG like network activity. So it kind of brings in all the networks together, but it's kind of hard because not everybody's in the office. So and to do something on that scale with a virtual event is probably pretty difficult. So we haven't gotten there yet on that one. But as I mentioned, what we're trying to do is kind of every quarter do something, whether it's a panel event or with it, if it's like an offsite event. We do like nonprofit volunteering. So Project Angel Food is one of our groups organizations that we team up with. We've been participating with them since like 2000, the year 2000, and we've kind of done like a quarterly event with them. So we've had like the Pride group, sign up, and we'll go there. They've kind of got a limited membership now of people that can go just for COVID reasons, but so we'll do that. So along with panel events and then like volunteering events, we'll do that as well throughout the year. And then we've been trying to be a little more creative. So we've been asking a lot of our members if they can think of things to kind of create an event or bring other people together. whether it's in person or if it's offsite. And I think, during the holidays, we have our holiday party, aside from the firm holiday party, we actually have a pride party as well. And then I think one of our things that we really want to do is we're trying to do a corporate events where it's a pride event, but in addition to other like corporations that we bring in. So that's in the works right now, but that one's kind of a hard event to tackle because of the different pieces you have to pull together.
Jill, anything you care to add?
No, but I think similar to what Gary's saying, collaborating, bringing in other groups and kind of joining forces that, being such a small nonprofit, that's constantly what I'm doing. And we partner with a lot of the LGBTQ organizations, API Cutesy. There's a group called Omusubi, and these are the women's kind of lesbian, trans, queer groups. And so it's always building relationships and collaboration and, bringing others on to help with the outreach and planning.
Yeah, I think at Salesforce, it's much like what Gary talked about at KPMG, and that, we've got some major events that happen, and in the interim, both regional and global groups will do something quarterly to keep things going. But they also have newsletters, that are, virtual, through the internal communications mechanism, have newsletters and so on that they'll do. But remembering that these are all employee-run, employee-based, it really depends on what that employee has, what those employees have going on. So if you've got a bunch of employee members who are all part of one type of function or another, and you happen to hit their really, bad part of their quarter or something, where they're really intensely involved with work and they can't get to anything else, then sometimes you see a little bit of a lull. But for the most part, I think when they sign up to do this, they're pretty excited about it, and they keep that. And when they stop being so excited about it, they drop off of the planning side and they just come to the meetings when they can. So we always seem to have a group of people who are excited enough about any one of these ERGs to keep it going. Let's see, Keith had another question about, do your ERGs have vetting processes in place for coalition partnerships with external organizations? The short answer for Salesforce is yes. Anytime we deal with anyone outside the company, we have to get legal involved, and there's actually a group that does that kind of thing. And so yes, we always have to do that because we've got to take care on that one. Gary, how about for you?
Yeah, I don't know the actuality of that, but I would assume because our firm is so large, that would be the same, but the same thing as Salesforce.
Yeah, in fact, I'm doing a trauma workshop for Faith Force in October, and the speaker I'm bringing in, I have to get vetted for that. It's more by the ERG itself is doing the vetting in that case, but because they're not representing a company or a firm or anything like that. So, right. Jill, anything from your group to?
I think having a supportive executive director and then on our board is very supportive. So as I mentioned, Kei Matsuda is on our board. And that was just really helpful to me, that there's like an advisor that I could go to or representative that I could invite, to help welcome people. So that's been really helpful for me.
Okay. I don't see any other questions in the chat. Let me ask a question for Gary and Jill. In the environment that we're seeing right now, with so many, the states passing laws that are anti just about anything. Are you seeing an upsurge at all in the activity in your ERGs? Are they sort of generating more activity to help the community members deal with this or in some way react to this? So has that caused any increased activity in your ERGs?
I'll go first. I don't. I mean, I'm going to say I really am uncertain of that because, we're not, like, a lot of the employees are not in the office, and we're not, I mean, communications wise, we're not really hearing that type of topic or information that's on any of our, a lot of our web pages that we have. We have, like, each employee has, when they log on to their laptops, what comes up on their monitors is basically, it's called KPMG Today. So, and that lists like all the information for the US and then globally, and then, socially. So, each employee sees that, when they log on, but I scan it every day, but I haven't really seen anything to like ERGs or BRGs, mentioning anything of what they're doing because of those kind of issues. I know that KPMG is definitely, they're very supportive of a lot of issues, but most of them are global issues. So, I mean, like, I think when the war broke out with Ukraine and Russia, we took a stance on that. And then, like, we actually closed our Russian office and our Belarus office. So we disconnected, from those two countries. And then, like, socially, I think with like all of the climate change and the fires and the floodings and everything, KPMG has a foundation that provides funding, to the different groups. But kind of your specific question, I haven't really seen anything on the resource group level about responding to, those types of issues yet.
Jill, how about you?
So nothing currently, but I guess similarly, when there was a transition in leadership and when Trump got elected, there was a lot of concern and fear by the trans and queer community. And at that time was pretty close to when we hosted the Tadaima conference, and we had a number of advocates really wanting to gather to talk about what's going on and to raise awareness and to garner support. So they crafted a letter, and we sent it to the Japanese American community, local organizations to show support. And it was really wonderful to have that movement and just to realize that there is a lot of support, through the faith churches, the temples, the nonprofit organizations. So I think that was reassuring to have that. So that's been my experience.
Yeah, I think the response at Salesforce is not so much to the ERGs as it's been across the employee base. So whether it was the laws in Indiana or Florida or Texas, or the Russian invasion of Ukraine, where we've had employees who have driven to the border and helped ferry families in. In fact, one of my coworkers who is from the northern part of Europe actually is hosting Ukrainian refugees in his home. And so, so we see it as an outpouring of Salesforce employees, not the ERGs specifically, but all employees. And it doesn't matter whether it's an LGBTQ issue or it's just a human rights issue. We see a very committed set of people, a set of communities. So